Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Chris Mays from New Life Fellowship, and I just want to say welcome to We Are New Life. And in this session, I've been getting a chance to sit and interview some people that have been at New Life various lengths of time, just to hear some stories of God's faithfulness, what He's done at the church, and how people actually came and joined in to be a part of New Life and what God has done in their lives. And today I have the opportunity, the privilege to get to interview Ryan and Jessie Mimidis. So welcome, Ryan and Jessie. And the first question I want to ask is just, how long have you guys been at New Life? And maybe tell me a little bit of your story of how you got to be here.
Sure, I'll go first. So I've been here about 3.5 years, and in that time of my life, I feel like I really wanted like close community and people that really knew me, and were invested in my life. And I was also really desiring to see like couples that have been married for a long time, because I was in a hopeless area around dating and being with anyone.
So at the time, you were single when you came to New Life. So
yeah.
Ryan was an addition afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well,
Right.
tell us a little bit about how that went.
Yeah. Well, it was probably a few months before we connected that I started coming, or getting invested through worship nights or speaking events and things. And before we connected, I did go to a service where Denny Kramer was prophetically speaking, and he did speak over me wedding bells. And I remember he saying after that, you're like, are you not coming back to the church at all because of that?
I was wondering after that. You never know how people are going to react when somebody says something like that over them.
Yeah. So I wasn't afraid of that because it was a hopeful thing for me in that season of my life. And then it was really encouraging being around couples that have been married for 30 years and like seeing the vision for that for my life. And then you can share your part.
And then I started coming regularly about a week after you did. We both had decided, we had been like just kind of seeing each other a little bit, and both decided that it was time for us to move on from where we were. And so maybe like a week after her, I was wrapping up some event that I was a part of at my other church. I came here, and the reason why I came is because I had been in this very, very specific place in my faith where I was seeing, Jesus a certain way, and so I was with a church that was just really active in the community, and it was really wonderful. There's a lot of good work that was being done in maybe the social sphere, but I was wanting more, and I was wanting connection through relationship, and so that's what drew me here.
Okay. So more than just coming because of Jessie, you were finding the next phase of what God was wanting to do in your life through the church.
Right, for sure.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a great perspective to look at it, because sometimes I had a pastor friend one time that told me, he's like, I wasn't a Baptist, but I went to the Baptist church because my wife was there, or I was going to meet her, and that's why I became a Baptist. But you really did come because God was moving and you were searching for something.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you came to New Life, tell me a little bit about how the journey was together, because it's one thing to come as individuals, but once you got married, has that shifted at all in what you were looking for with community, or has it deepened it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that in at least for my individual journey and what I was looking for, community would already be a part of me coming here. We had some people here that we knew. I mean, Lydia was still working at Light of Life at the time, and so were you, and so was I, and so the community aspect of connecting with New Life was very easy and quick. I mean, we just had a strong connection with some people already, and then that just grew once we got here. At least, that's how I saw that.
Yeah, and I feel like we were accepted right away. I never felt, when we started dating, I never felt like weird or pressured about our relationship even. People just came alongside of us and got to know us individually.
Yeah.
And I think it grew our relationship in the sense of having conversations afterwards about like the message that you would speak, or what did you feel was happening in worship when you were journaling things that would happen in worship, and then like pastor would say something that was connected to what you were thinking. And so I think it did deepen our relationship and like connecting in those ways too.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories of God doing more beneath the surface than what we're saying from the pulpit or what we even see happening in the natural. It always encourages me to know that he's working on people's hearts. Thinking about outside of like that, it's so cool to come to a place where you've already got some built-in community. But obviously at some point you do broaden that, or we should be broadening that so we don't get so closed in just the same group of people all the time. Tell me, who are some of the other, outside of your close community that you already had when you came, who are some of the people outside of that circle that you first remember that stood out to you when you came to New Life?
Yeah, going back, that's 3.5 years. Now I feel like we've been here for a little while, and so and some of those people, yeah, that's a really good question. A really good question. Like who?
If it helps you think of it, maybe I'll ask it this way: is there somebody that stood out that they made a positive impact on your life, or you remember them helping you in some way, or just that friendship that kind of drew you in?
Yeah, I think that the connection with people that Jess already kind of alluded to, that I experienced as well, was just there was a lot of just affirmation for us. So there was a lot that was happening with the church as a whole. I mean, we would talk to people, all the time, just on a Sunday. I think that the connection, obviously, that we made and that we made with Pam has just been very strong. It's kind of a leading relationship that's kind of kept us here. But I mean, Zach and Christina, for sure.
Christina was actually who I was thinking of.
Yeah, Christina.
Early on, I remember praying together, like one of the first services I was here. She was on the prayer team, and I believe she was praying for me, and then I prayed for her. It was like encouraging each other. So I remember that pretty vividly. Yeah,
and Elliot, too, is he's a Marine, and so he likes, and I'm a Marine.
So you had something in common.
Yeah, we had something in common. Yeah, and that was great to connect with him.
What thinking about just being here, interacting with some of those people, having those discussions about what God's doing. What obviously you've both been walking with Jesus a while before you came to New Life, so you've had history and grown and seen him move. But since you've been at New Life, what would you say are one or two key things that you've learned, or that God grew you in, somehow he made an impact in your life through New Life?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think that being at New Life, I've had a lot of transitions in my life. One being married, having a baby, and a lot of job changes, like major things, house things, all of that. But I think throughout all of those changes, I've seen like the steadiness and constant like presence of Jesus in my life, like knowing that he's always there with me has been, because I think I had believed that before in the past in my head, but I think being here, like really knowing that was in my being, like knowing Jesus is actually with me. And that came through like you and Pam's encouragement and other people at New Life just affirming what I'm already hearing from God. And just knowing like no matter ups and downs that I have support and I see Jesus in people here. So yeah, I think just walking out and actually believing the things that I thought I believed, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, because you've probably heard me say it from the pulpit even, that if we could just cultivate believing believers,
Yeah.
it would change the world. And it's one thing to know it in your head, oh, God's always with me, I can see that, but to know he's always with me and to have people alongside of you to remind you of that in a
Yeah.
practical way is a good thing to have. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that my faith journey, how we talk about those things, has led me through places of doubt. And so I, in my own journey, in my own walk, it's just been a place of consistency and a place that I can constantly come back to as I walk through stages or places of doubt and fear. We talk about fear all the time. I think that the steadiness of the church has been something that's just been grounding in my life, and I'm really grateful for.
That's awesome. If I can maybe paraphrase or what I'm hearing out of that statement is that you've discovered a place where it's okay to have conversations about anything and everything, even the stuff we're wrestling with or the stuff we don't understand always, or this.
Right, for sure. That hasn't always been the case for me in churches that I've attended, and so for us to get together at Pepe's and to talk about things and to be able to wrestle openly and to challenge each other and to go deeper. It's just that's a wonderful thing.
And to not be rejected.
Right, for sure.
Which I think it's such an awesome picture of the Father, because that's how he is. We can come to him with everything, and he doesn't turn us away. And so I think the more we can model that for others around us, the more helpful it is to help people know who Jesus really is.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that bit, Ryan. I appreciate it. If you can think about, I know it's 3.5 years. Obviously, you're on the shorter end of New Life celebrating 50 years. But even in this last 3.5 years, is there anything that Jesus did in your life that stands out to you that makes your jaw drop or makes you say, "Wow, that's pretty amazing, God, that you did that in our lives"?
Wow. Yeah, there's so
there's a
much.
lot of things.
It's hard to narrow it down to just
Like,
one
where
or
do
two.
we begin?
Yeah. I mean, this I would say just his faithfulness, because I mean this place has been just that constant, right? So it's the place you come back to whenever you're wrestling with, hey, I don't know where we're gonna live. They just raised our rent 23% or whatever it was. I don't know where I'm gonna work. I don't know if I'm gonna stay where I am. And God just continually providing for us, and we always have that temptation or that tendency to want to doubt and to think, oh no, what's going to happen? But God has just been so faithful, and providing a home for us and new jobs for each of us, and Luca's here, and he's just awesome. And so that's been there's been so much goodness. Yeah,
and I'll go off of that with even Luca, because we had his baby shower here, our baby shower here, and a lot of the people from our church were there, and they had a time of speaking words over Luca and what he would be like, and nobody knew his name yet, and there were multiple people. I think Diana was one of them. I think Pam Kenneth was there, and she said something that was about what we were going to name him as bringer of light, and they had mentioned something about that and his character and how he's going to be. I see him like developing from those words that we got. So I think that's really cool, like those things you can look back on from the support of the community and hearing God's voice in like such a real way. that is such an important thing in our life is our child. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
Really
'Cause
cool.
while you're talking, it just stirs me to think there are places in the world where people have community and relationships, but it's a whole nother aspect in life-giving when Jesus is involved and there's a supernatural element to the community that we have. Just you even talking about, people surrounded me and they spoke over me what they felt like God was saying to me. Like that's community that you don't get from relationships in the world without Jesus. And it's as good as those relationships may be, there's something really special and life-giving about it being in a supernatural aspect with Jesus at the center. So man, that's cool. I didn't even know some of that story about what they said over Luca. So and for those of you that may not know and the people that are watching and wondering, Luca is how old right now at this moment?
1.5 years.
Yeah, just
Almost.
about.
A year and a half. You guys look amazing for having a 1.5-year-old at home.
Thanks. That's encouraging.
It's great.
You can do it. That's part of the community at New Life. I'm going to
Yeah.
encourage you. You guys are great parents, and
Thank
Luke is in
you.
good hands. I
Yeah.
believe that he's in a good
Thanks.
place. Thinking about, I know obviously we've all had experiences at different churches over the years, and hopefully one of the things we realize is no church is perfect, but some of the relationships are worth it, and it's worth fighting for sometimes and working through our own stuff to see how I can protect and preserve those relationships. So what about New Life is it that keeps you coming back? And it's okay if you're going to repeat part of an answer or springboard off of something you've already said. But I think about that is I know we're not perfect, and I know there are times within any family or community context that people are going to upset you or do something, but it's worth coming back to. So what are just maybe one or two of the key, like, this is part of what keeps me coming?
Yeah, I think that I used to hold the belief, or I thought that I wanted to be in a place that, looked exactly like me, had the same beliefs, had, the same theology, or, it was, some mirror image of what I was or what I thought. And that's not something that I really, I've been wrestling, I've been challenged in that way, that there is no perfect community. It just doesn't exist. And to exist in a place, or to be in a place where the wrestling can happen, where the challenge can happen, where, where assumptions can be challenged, I think that's a good place to be. And if we could do those things together, I'll keep coming back for that.
Yeah. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Jesus gets as uptight as we do sometimes about people that are different than us or don't agree
Right.
with us. Man, it does. At the end of the day, don't you think Jesus gets more glory when he can bring us together in spite of our differences?
For sure, yeah.
Well, Jessie, how about you?
Yeah.
What's hooked you, or what keeps you coming back, or what are some of those things?
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, in the beginning of why I wanted to come here, I've always felt like worship, there's such a freedom to freely worship and to connect with God in a special way during worship. So I think that's part of what keeps me there. And I think too, other than like feeling, because we have conversations about it too, like we know this is where we're meant to be right now, and like praying through that, and knowing God has specific things for us to offer here as well.
Yeah.
Because going off of that, when we think, well, this person's thinking differently than me, or I don't totally agree with everything, instead of like being negative about that, it's okay, what do I have to bring and offer that's different and can show like a different side and perspective, because we all come from such different backgrounds. So I think when that comes up, like pressing into that, like, okay, it's not just about agreeing with each other all the time or avoiding conflict or whatever, but how do I bring my relationship with God and how that impacts the church in different ways too. So
That's a great
Yeah.
perspective to come at it from, because I've heard people talk before about the church being like God's weaving together, a quilt or a mosaic or something, and it's not as vibrant if all the colors aren't there. And each one of us brings that different flavor, that different perspective, that different color, if you will, into the fabric of what God is knitting together in the church. So that's an awesome way to look at it. I don't have to make you be the same as me. I get to share who I am and appreciate who you are, and we walk together. That's cool. One of the questions I had on the list, like obviously you guys haven't been here long enough to remember my dad, who used to pastor the church. So I'll have to ask, do you have a funny Pastor Chris story that you want to share with everybody? And do I need to close my ears to let you record it on the video?
Yeah, well, there was this one time that I found out that Pastor Chris had the same shoes as I had, and I promised that I would come barefoot the following Sunday. Just, I don't know, out of protest. I'm not sure what it is. But
That's awesome. I ask that question every time, even though I don't know what answers I'm going to get, but I'm okay with whatever people want to share.
Yeah.
That's a fairly recent story too, so I'm still waiting for the barefoot payoff.
It's coming.
Oh, how about you, Jess?
Well, I think it's just funny that we had a meeting by candlelight the other week. That's what's coming to my mind. Because all of the lights went out in New Life, and
the power went out, and we had to scramble for matches and candles.
So that was
still
funny
had the meeting
because you said, "Well, I'm going to go find something so you can entertain yourself in the dark," because you had to go find candles or something. So I was in the dark by myself.
What's hilarious is not even Christmas time, and we burned the Advent candles. That's what happened for the meeting.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the commitment to meeting and getting it done anyways, no matter what.
Whatever it takes. That's good. Well, as we're about to wind down and thinking of some final thoughts, if you guys had one or two things that you would think of to share with somebody who's going to be at New Life for the next 10, 20, 30 years, somebody that is thinking, I'm going to plant and make a home here, what advice would you give them, or what would you share?
Yeah, I think that I would encourage people to bring your whole self into this place, because we don't need some, I don't know, masked up or just, fake version of you. We want you to come here and bring who you are. That's what we need here, is whoever is supposed to be here to bring all of themselves here. Because that's, all of who you are is who God made you to be. And there are things that we will learn from you, and things that we'll get to work out together. But we can't do it unless it's all of you.
And sometimes
really
that
good.
takes bravery to bring
hard.
your whole self.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's something in community. It's the authenticity is more valuable than conformity. Yeah. Well, what about you, Jess? What advice would you give somebody?
Yeah, I would say to know that you're always supported, even when you don't believe it or feel it, because I think a lot of the time we can hold back because of the lies, like I won't be accepted as I am, or I'm going through too much, or God can't speak to me. I think just to be aware of those thoughts and to know that God can heal and free you of those things, so that you can be open and be in community and be loved by God through people, to let that guard down. So,
Man, that is awesome, because I think God so loves us and community that the devil's constantly trying to undo it or get us to believe for some reason we're not valuable enough, or we don't belong, or something like that. So coming to that place of shutting out the lies and just saying, yeah, there is a place for me here.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Well, what other thoughts do you guys have about your time at New Life or the celebration this year for 50 years? Any final words of wisdom that you want to leave us with?
I was thinking about the question of the people, and I was going for some like deep answer of some like deep connection, but there have been so many people that just come to mind here. Steve and Karen Mack, Jonathan and Diana, Andrea and Garrett, who met here and got married and now have little Olive Wonder.
Yeah.
And
You wanted to shout her out.
Sure, I want to shout out Olive Wonder.
That's her first shout out.
Yeah, and then the Joneses, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Elliot, and Faith Wolfley, who's my buddy.
Yeah.
And it's so great to see her and connect with her. The guys we see at the door, every Sunday morning. Got Dave and Bill and Mike. Yeah, who else is there? Yeah. It's just, it's so great. The welcome committee, every time we come in the door, there've been so many people. Jane and I could go on forever.
The list goes on.
The list goes on.
You almost can't start a list because you're going to leave somebody out.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So Brian left you out. We're sorry, but
You're included.
You are on the list. Don't believe the lies that you're not included.
Exactly. Yeah. And going with that, I love that it's so multi-generational.
Yeah.
Because there's so much wisdom in this house, I will say that. And you can tell it's passed down from your father that ran the church and oversaw everything. You can tell just like the love and wisdom and faith that people have, and they want to teach younger people and pray for younger people, and just I love that dynamic.
Yeah.
So
there's people that have been here a long time that really want you to succeed. That's what I feel about it, even of having grown up in the church, and some of the people I'm pastoring now were my Sunday school teachers when I was little, but cool. Knowing that they're for me and they want to see good things happen in the church is encouraging. So that's a good perspective too. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you just taking the time to sit down and have a chat and just talk about the church a little bit and what's going on in your lives. So thank you, Ryan and Jessie. Appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this session, and God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.